All right, well, let's kick the night off with a word of prayer, then I'll hand it over to the Shanklins. Unfortunately, tonight our youth are not going to do their presentation. Jared is not feeling well, and so make that up at another time. So let's pray, and I'll hand the mic over. Father, we thank you for sending us to places that demonstrate that this world is a whole lot bigger than we ever thought it could be. And we see Christians in other parts of the world, and we discover that they're not so much different than us. They have their customs and all different things like that, language barriers, but they love the same Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of us all. Remind us of that tonight. Thank you for the Shanklins and for their faithfulness to you and willingness to go and serve in Kenya. And I pray, God, that we would be encouraged through what they present. And may you be honored and glorified in all that we say and do here tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Okay, thank you. We went to Kenya. So, y'all like my shirt? Yeah. This is the only thing I've ever bought that was actually tailored. Unless Mom made it for me. She might have. Me and Seth went up there, and he started measuring us, and we're like, make sure you leave a little loose around the middle. And I think he thought I needed to lose weight because it's a little tighter than I wanted. But we didn't have time to have him change it, so I guess I'll lose weight if I want to wear it again. So I guess to kick off the expectations that we had with this trip, we were going to see what Mary Catherine has been developing there in Kenya with the Hope Factory and all the ministries that she has in place, meet the people that are there serving alongside her, and just help out wherever she needed us, wherever we might be useful. That was our expectations going in. Anything else? Nope. Good. All right. So we'll just flip through a few of these. Getting ready for our 15-hour trip to Doha, Qatar. Kyson is flexing all the time. Where is that picture at? Okay, so we'd already been on the flight for 16 hours, and we were going to go find a bed for a little bit. And then we arrived to Kenya. It's not in order? Okay. It's not in order, so I don't know. Okay, flip. Okay, so when we arrived in Kenya, a man named Richard met us at the hotel. We had to make our way to the hotel. They had a shuttle picking us up at the hotel, at the airport. Words are hard. They had a shuttle picking us up at the airport. We had a little trouble getting through into Kenya because we had stuff with us, like soccer balls. And they said, well, you have to pay a tax on that. And we're like, we're not selling them. We're bringing them to play with the kids and leave at the school. And they said, well, you have to have a government form filled out from the school that you're going to. And he wanted us to give him money. And Seth was ready to do it. And I looked at Seth and I'm like, don't do it. Not yet. And so I called Mary Catherine, handed him the phone, and Mary Catherine talked to him and everything. Okay, I'm going to let you go. Everything just went fine. But we were not getting out of there without giving that man some money. And there was no like, oh, go to this window and pay it, or here's the form, fill this out. It was, you need to pay the tax. Well, what tax? Show me, But so it was interesting. We made it through finally, got to the hotel, and Richard, a man named Richard, picked us up. Richard is a man that saved Mary Catherine one time whenever she was stuck at the airport. And she spent the night at the airport by herself. And Richard worked for the Qatar Airlines. And he saw her over there crying after being there all night. And this is Mary Catherine's words. Saw her over there crying. And Richard told me, I felt sympathy for her. So I went and she told me her story and how nobody would help her. And he said, well, I'll help you. And so I think he gave her a room. Do y'all know? I think he let her spend the night at his house, him and his wife. And they have a school in Nairobi called Valley View, right? And that's actually where a couple of the orphans that y'all have helped over the years, Elizabeth Hope being one of them, and we got to meet her. Richard took us to that because we had all day. What time did we get there? 7:30 in the morning. Been flying all night, and we don't have a room until 11:30. So we hit the ground running. He comes and picks us up, takes us to school, and they give us this huge honor, this huge greeting. They're do you want to run the slideshow maybe? Where they bring us in and they set us down in this long room, which is like concrete walls and what they call iron sheets. We call tin roof, and no air conditioner, very little light, and each class does a presentation for us, mostly to music, dancing, some tribal dances, stuff like that. A few times they made us dance with them. This is Becca talking to a bunch of the kids. They were very interested in us. Mzungu, right? And Mzungu means white person. I'm sure I've heard Mary Catherine say that several times. I don't think we put that picture in there, but there's one picture where all the girls are around Macy touching her hair because they just had to touch her hair. But they treated us with honor. And, I was asking the kids what were some of their perceptions of, when we first got there. And basically, Nairobi was a huge city, about 4 million people, and there was people everywhere they walk, everywhere they go, a lot of them. Except in Nairobi, there was a lot of traffic. And they said, basically, it was what you would expect a third world country city to look like, from their expectations. But ultimately, we were exhausted. This is some of those presentations. Again, this is not the Hope Factory. This is just one of Mary Catherine's friends that volunteered to take care of us while we were in Nairobi, and took us to see his school, and they fed us. And gave us a great presentation. We were exhausted and just overwhelmed. Like it was amazing to get that kind of greeting. Okay, Kenya Air. We're getting ready to take off and head up to Kisumu, where Mary Catherine would meet us. This is the next morning, and so we loaded. We've never loaded up on an airplane just using steps. There's no what do you call it? No, yeah, there's no no concourse, no jetway out. We just walk out there through the pavement, go up the steps, and get on an airplane. That is the house that Mary Catherine stays in whenever she's there. she rents it. The Hope Factory rents it, and hopefully, so that we can do more. She can host more mission groups like this. There's some couple of extra bedrooms and a shower. This is Pastor Ellie's house. Pastor Ellie's house is where we stayed. That is her pastor in Mumias, and he hosts groups regularly, I guess. He has a guest house designed well. There's 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. So you see the white car. On the right is his house. On the left, you can kind of see through the trees. That's where we stayed. And every evening, Pastor Ellie requested for us to come eat supper with him. And we had lots of good talks. Political talks, trying to figure out, according to what he said, America is the leader of the free world. And they're very concerned with what we're doing. And what's going on over here. And what was another conversation, Macy? What age you should let your daughter date or your son date. And they practice the man trying to marry the woman, they practice dowry. And so there was a debate between 2 pastors whether it's biblical to pay a dowry. And so that was an interesting conversation between Pastor Ellie and Pastor Michael. Some good, healthy conversations. It was very fun just being there and engaging with them. And that is one of the bedrooms where we stayed. That's where Tatum and Macy slept. You tuck yourself in. Before you tuck yourself in, you tuck the mosquitoes out. And really, mosquitoes were not a problem until it got dark. And when it got dark, there was mosquitoes. And that's, what did MC call them? The malaria bugs or something like that. What else? That was the bathroom. That is a really nice bathroom in Mumias, Kenya. You can see the toilet has no seat. It's just the bowl. You see the shower head? That's not a light, that's a shower head. And my bathroom actually didn't have a sink. Seth and Becca's bathroom had a sink inside of it. And so if you want to shower, before you go in the shower, you go in the hallway and you flip the light switch on. The light switch turns on the hot water. It's instant hot water, and sometimes. And you go in and you turn on your water, and it's all gravity fed. And so you have a nice little shower. And one night it was really hard for Kyson. No, don't talk about it. There were tears. We couldn't figure out how to get the hot water on. He'd already fallen asleep in the car ride over there, and he's taking a cold shower, and right after supper he fell asleep. That's right. Anyway, it was a rough night, but we made it. We hadn't got it all figured out yet, but we weren't accustomed to what we were supposed to do. You see that picture that Becca is holding? Becca behind Macy? That picture's full of hot milk with tea in it. And that's how they drank their tea. They would heat up milk. They didn't have cold milk. So if you wanted fresh milk was on the shelf, not in the refrigerated section. No, it was on the shelf, not in the refrigerated section, and it was sealed. It was packaged, and that's where you get your fresh milk. So you don't just drink it straight; you heat it up. And so they heat it up, and they let their tea bags steep in it, and then they add a little sugar. They didn't have processed sugar; they had raw natural sugar. And Macy and I loved it. But at first it's like, well, I don't know, it takes some getting used to. But by about the second day, we're like asking for it. We're ready for our tea. And they were always ready to serve tea. They loved having their tea. Okay, this is at the school. This is at, what do we call it? The Hope Factory School, the Hope of Africa School. What is it? Do y'all know? Kiwanda Chatumaini. What does that mean? There you go. Kiwanda Chatumaini. And it was very, very nice facilities. You know, green grass, lots of shade. They ate outside on tables. Every meal was kind of like a picnic. Keep going. We gathered around. We would have Bible study in those chairs in the yard. Play. It's not soccer. It's football. Played football. They said, "What? You Americans, you play football with your hands?" Mumias was very pretty. It was. They said there was like 125,000 people. I didn't realize that. I knew there was a lot of people, and you got to be careful because you'll run over one. They're just right on the side of the road, everywhere, walking everywhere. 125,000 people, but very undeveloped town. There was hardly any buildings over one story. Nothing that was we would consider fancy. It was pretty rudimentary, I guess. But it wasn't. I mean, it got up to 90 degrees tops. It was usually around 85. Kenyans carried jackets everywhere they went, and every morning they had a jacket on, and when it got hot, they might take it off, and then every evening when it started getting dark, they put it back on. And we're all walking around like, this is great. Why are you putting a jacket on? But we probably got a few more mosquito bites than they did, too. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not. And of course, whenever we got to the school, we got another grand greeting. It wasn't quite to the effect that they don't have as many kids yet as what they had in Nairobi at that school. But they had us all sit down. They served us some tea and what's it called? Was it chapati or mandazi? Tea and mandazi, and which is kind of like a donut. What is the French pastry? A beignet. It's kind of like a beignet, without any kind of glaze or powder sugar or anything. It's just the bread. But it was tasty, and we would dip it in sugar a lot. But they looked at us like we're crazy. Like, y'all put sugar on everything. Some things that we learned about the school. I'll explain that picture in a minute. Some things we learned about the school is, they've really just kind of gotten reestablished in Mumias with all the moving that's been going on the past few years. They are growing, and there was, like, when we were there would be kids come in from other schools when they let out and stuff that they're wanting to come to school there. And so I feel like in the next school year that there's a lot of room for growth from what we saw.
So one of the big things that all the kids talked about and loved were the uniforms. They were so different than everybody else's and the public school uniforms. Everybody talked about them and the kids loved them. They were so excited.
The uniforms stood out. People knew what school they were coming from, and it drew attention, and they loved their new uniforms. They're starting relatively new. They've started a Rafiki curriculum. The Rafiki curriculum was developed by a lady out of Florida. Is that right? And they have a school there in Nairobi. It's the first, from what I understand, and I might be misstating this, but from what I understand, it's the first Christian curriculum that covers all of the Kenyan requirements for education. That's true? And so it's relatively new, and I say we, I'm a part of it now, right? We have the only school in all of Western Kenya that has it. And so there's a lot going on there. There's lots of, I see lots of potential. It's going to grow, and they're not going to have enough room in that building. But the landowner that they rent it from is already in discussions with how will be able to expand whenever the circumstances arise. We spent a lot of time with the kids and built relationships with them. The kids knew all of them by name, and I was still trying to remember the teachers' names most of the time. This is not Emerson. Peter. This is Peter, and Peter. We're fixing to talk about the School of Theology. Peter's one of the graduates of the School of Theology, and Peter rides that piki around everywhere, except for whenever Seth stole it from him. But the piki is what they call the motorbike, and those pikis were everywhere. If they weren't walking, they were riding on a piki, and they were on every corner, and they were trying to get somebody to pay them to take them somewhere. And they didn't care what you had. They'll make it fit, as you can see. They were taking all those mattresses up to the church, Pastor Ellie's church, where the graduation was going to be, so that the pastors that are all coming in from all over Western Kenya and Uganda and wherever else, wouldn't have to sleep on the floor. They needed more mattresses. So they stacked them up, put some boards across, tied those boards on, tied those mattresses to those boards, and they're on their way. It doesn't like it, does it? But that was when we first arrived at the school. And they lined us up in the shade and chairs. Y'all sit down. We have something prepared for y'all. And I don't know, it was a little overwhelming. We were tired. I don't know if Macy minds me saying this, but I looked over and Macy's over there crying while they're singing to us, and then I kind of started crying because she was crying, and Shannon doesn't relate to that. Where are we at now? We're at the market. Mary Catherine wanted us to experience the market, and we experienced the market. I've never seen any salesman push their product so much. And it was probably stuff we donated to Goodwill or something and got shipped over there. Salvation Army. And I don't mean that. I'm not trying to be a jerk about it. That's probably what it was. And there was a lot of stuff that was secondhand, and there was a lot of stuff that I've never heard of the brand, and a lot of stuff that we just didn't need. I think Macy ended up buying a little bead bracelet there, right? Joey has it now. Okay, that's the church. What's the name of the church? Anybody remember? Emmanuel? Is it Emmanuel something? Anyway, it's right there on the tip of my tongue. Ellie's Church. Can't remember the name of it. Anyway, Ellie's Church, and they've built this church, and it's a beautiful church, beautiful building. And you will see in a few slides, right, Davy's house, which is Davy's one of the students at the school, and his family lives in their old church. So you're going to see where they started. Pastor Ellie is the man on the left in the cool Kenyan shirt. That's why we wanted a shirt. Like, we want to be like Pastor Ellie. And he's the one that gave us the name of the tailor to go see. And then Brother Michael Mara is on the right, and he is from Nairobi. And Brother Michael is one of the professors for the School of Theology. And Ellie also has a pastor training school in his church. Not at least not at this point, not related to the Hope of Africa. But Mary Catherine goes to his church. Whenever Mary Catherine is in Kenya, that's her pastor, and they just work closely, work hand in hand, and I didn't know they were going to do this to me, but they asked me to read scripture. Mary Catherine asked me to read a scripture at the beginning of the service for the graduation. Have I not said that? This is the graduation, the first ever graduation for the Hope of Africa School of Theology. And then Dr. Rubin, one of the other professors, after I go sit down and finish reading, he comes up and he says, "I need you to help me. Come here." And so I go sit down over by him. And then next thing I know, I'm up there on stage shaking hands with them and moving tassels over. And so I was very humbled. Like, this whole time, I was very humbled and very honored. I couldn't believe how they treated us the whole time. So that was you don't have to keep going. You can just skip to the next slide. But that was the graduates. The graduates had a song celebration afterwards, and they led the congregation in singing. Could you understand what they were saying? That's right. I love you, Jesus. You are my Savior. And they said that several times in that song specifically. And they had another song. Can you find that other song? I sent it to you. But there's another song. It's what was the name of it? On Christ the Solid Rock I Stand. What's the name of that song? Solid Rock. But they're singing it a cappella, and Pastor Ellie's leading them in singing it, and the harmony, it was gorgeous. And it's all in Swahili. We don't know what they're saying, but we're just taking it in, and me and Seth are over there videoing them, singing it, and come to find out it's On Christ the Solid Rock I Stand, and they completely changed the tune. They sing it both ways, but they had completely changed the tune, and we all loved it. We thought it was great. And I thought we had it on there, but we don't, I guess. This is after church, right? This is after Sunday church. So the graduation was on Saturday, And then we went to church there on Sunday, and the two ladies in the back, that's what's her name? Esther and Neutron. It's Esther and Neutron, and two teachers for Kiwanda Chatu Maini, and we were just sitting around visiting after church.
That doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound right. Surely there is a part for me to play in this matter.
So that's Brother Ellie behind the pulpit, and then one of his understudies, Washington, is behind him translating. So, because we're there, Brother Ellie's speaking in English, and Washington is translating in Swahili. And whenever we met Washington, he said it's spelled with an E at the end, but he said Washington without the DC. So, so Brother Ellie is preaching, and I didn't in this clip I didn't get it, but he's animated. He's getting into it, and he's getting this really high pitched voice, and he's saying how it just doesn't make sense. And I'll let y'all listen to it, but he's saying it just doesn't make sense that there's something I need to do for my salvation. And he's saying, but God does it all for us. God, that's the gist of his sermon here. And he's getting all into it. He's like, it just doesn't make sense. So I want y'all to kind of understand what he's saying here.
Maybe I have to take one step and God will take the rest. Surely there's something I must know. It's incomprehensible to the human mind. But I can only rest in what another has done. That Christ's death was my death. And that his life was my life. One writer put it this way. On a life I never lived. And on a death I never died. On that I stake my eternal soul.
Did y'all get the message? He's good. We enjoyed him. We enjoyed every conversation we had with him. We enjoyed his preaching. He had a lot to offer, and he is working hard for the glory of God, and it was great to see that. What else do we got here? Okay, so this is the church that they started in. This is where Davy is living, and Davy is right there in the sweater, and that's his little rollerboard. Did y'all see him ride it? He said he could ride it, but he never did show us. And so y'all see the ditch, and you see that bridge going across? The car that we were in was parked right next to it. There was no shoulder, and they told us, just park there, that they can go around. It's fine. And so we parked there, and then we had to cross that bridge. It was a little touch and go. I got down and helping MC and everybody across, and Tatum said it's deeper than it looks, and he's right. I mean, it was probably, when I got down in it, it was probably close to my hip. That's one of the rooms that's their main living room, I guess. And they're just so thrilled, just so honored that we came to visit them. And just God must be smiling on us that y'all came to visit us, you know. And the reason we went we went to the grocery store right after church, and there was two families that the teachers had told Mary Catherine that they need some help. And so we went to the grocery store and we got some staples for them, and we took them to them, got some rice and stuff like that, and just visited them, and they were just so thrilled that we were there. That's their garden, right, behind the church. Am I correct? And where they hung their clothes and stuff. Keep going. Anything else up there? Okay, so do y'all recognize this place? It's the farm. One day we went out to visit the farm. Back there we were walking through the corn, going down to the river, the maze. We were going down to the river where the hippos come up from. And keep going. And we went down to take a little boat ride across the river. We were hoping to see something. We wanted to see hippos. We hadn't seen any wildlife yet. And we didn't. There, you see the shady spot over there on the right, not where the tree is, but on the other side there's a shady spot. There was a couple of guys over there fishing, and Tatum went over there and they handed him the fishing pole and let him fish a little bit with just an old cane pole, and he lost their weight in the mud, but they just pulled out another rock and tied it on. It wasn't a big deal. They didn't? Oh. Tatum says they didn't have any bait. It was just a hook. Okay. Thank you. I don't recognize this. This is just the surrounding area. Okay. Do y'all know what's going on right there on top of that tarp? Threshing? They've already threshed. They separated the corn, the maize, and they're drying their maize out. They don't eat it soft. They lay it out, they get it nice and dry, then they go grind it up because they want to make ugali out of it. Yummy. And ugali is just corn flour boiled in water. Nothing else. No salt, no pepper, no sugar. And they boil it to a consistency about like Play-Doh, and they pinch it off, and they grab meat or grab kale or grab something with that ugali, and they eat it. And it
Looks like a giant lump of cream of wheat to me. If you've ever made cream of wheat, you lump it. That's what the consistency reminded me.
you might mistake it for some really dry, thick mashed potatoes. It's not. It's edible, but it's not tasty. It just is. So this is at the farm. We've attracted all the kids, pulled out some soccer balls. It's a very, around that farm, it's a very Muslim community. I mean, extremely Muslim. We got to actually meet and visit with 3 of the tribal elders: Saddam, Hamisi, and Muhammad. And all 3 are Muslim, very Muslim names.
Brandon, I just got a text from Paul Braun. There's a grass fire. It's out at Valley Spring, County Road 411 and west, State Highway 71. Very large in a pasture. And so
Yep, no problem. Ethan loved to chase the kids around, and they had a great time with that. We're back at the school here. This is the last day at the school. Becca got to celebrate her birthday there, and they celebrate birthdays a little bit different than we do. And we have some interesting videos of that, but we didn't think that y'all would be that interested in them. But it was fun. It's always a big deal with Becca. We went to school together at Howard Payne, and Becca's birthday was in July. And we always celebrated birthdays, but we didn't celebrate her birthday because it's in July. And so it's always been a big deal that we've always missed her birthday. So we had a big birthday celebration for her in Kenya. Sit. So we were getting ready to leave, and all of the kids are telling Mason, Nakupenda. What does that mean? Y'all know Swahili? Nakupenda. Y'all know Swahili? It means I love you. And they're all telling Macy Nakupenda. I don't know. We really enjoyed being around those kids. So every day, they asked me and Seth to lead the Bible studies, and so I voluntarily led the children's Bible study, and I let him lead the adults. And every time we'd sit down with the kids, and we would sing 2 or 3 hymnals like that, and the kids loved it. And then we would talk about what was in the curriculum. We were in Genesis, right? What? The story of Joseph. I taught it, but they remember. That's right. So we had some good times doing that. It's some very neat experiences being able to study the Word with some new friends. Tatum got a workout in with Pastor Ellie. So that Pastor Ellie's on the bench. How old was he? He's like about my age. Like he might have been a little younger. I can't remember. And then that's his nephew behind him, Josh, who's living with him right now. He's in his early 20s. And then Ethan and Tatum. And that was a room that was connected to where we were staying. And the boys kept asking him about it, and he's like, yeah, I've got a little workout room there. And as soon as they found that out, they're like, we got to work out. And so he obliged, and he really enjoyed. I think he really enjoyed working out with them, and they showed him some new things. Right? Wouldn't you say? Like it. I think he learned some things from it. That was kind of fun. Back to the farm real quick. There's lots of work to be done on the farm. It didn't make like what they wanted it to make. They had some problems. The well went out, so it was hard to irrigate, and so they didn't make a crop like they wanted to. But they harvested the maize like a few days after we got back, and I think we're fixing to start harvesting some kale and helping feed the children at the school. But it's just a lot of work trying to get everything in place. And my opinion, it was like, 8 miles away from the school, the farm, something like that. And it's really in another community. And so that community around them, wants to know how they're going to get benefited from that farm, and they're trying to make that farm benefit the school. So there's a lot of pushing and pulling, a lot of tension. I think it can produce enough to do both, but a matter of getting it to that point has been a struggle. Wouldn't y'all say? Anything else on that, y'all think of? So after we left Mumias, we started driving, and we drove down to Lake Naivasha. We're getting closer to Nairobi so that we can fly back. So we drove down to Lake Naivasha. While we're driving to Lake Naivasha, we're going up the whole time, going up into the mountains. And there was one point where we got close to 10,000 feet. We got to the equator, and none of us have a jacket on. Well, Kyson does. We just jumped out of the car, took a picture of the wonderful equator sign, very official. I'm assuming that's actually where it was. But there's a town there named Equator, so it's probably pretty close. And it was chilly. It had been raining. It had rained on us several times going through the mountains. Very, very green type rainforest type mountains. We hadn't gone through the Rift Valley yet. That's what they told us. That's what they kept telling us. Whenever we went, after we left Chewy Lodge, we crossed the Rift Valley. Is what they told us. And that is huge. Yeah. The further up in the mountains we got, it seemed like the more rain they got, and there was people on the side of the road selling stuff. They had fresh honey, the biggest carrots I'd ever seen in my life, potatoes, corn, roasted corn. They're selling roasted corn on the side of the street. Nothing on it, just roasted corn. It's not like Mexican street corn or something flavorful. It's just roasted corn. They love it. Oh, this is at Chewy Lodge. So we went to Lake Naivasha, spent the night, and we had reservations at Chewy Lodge, which is where we kind of did the animal safari. Beautiful accommodations. This is actually outside of the lodge. Yeah, this is on the side of the road. A giraffe. There's a whole herd of giraffes. A bunch of Kysons and Cadens running around. Kyson felt right at home. Those are chimpanzees, right? Baboons. Those are baboons. I did that while I was there, too. I called them by the wrong name the whole time. Zebras. Beautiful terrain. Whenever we got to Chewy Lodge, and it looks fairly green and some decent-sized trees, but there was a lot of parts that looked just like Fort Stockton, just not quite as dry. I mean, it looked just like Fort Stockton. And they had red Bramers. And these are not some of the better-looking ones. Well, I take that back. These are about middle of the road. There's some really sorry-looking cattle with humps on their back. These are a cross of the good red Bramers. And then there was some big old stout red Bramers there. And these are... This is the Maasai tribe, and the Maasai tribe, they're herders. They stay with their animals, whether it's cattle or goats or sheep. Lots of Dorper sheep there, and they lived with them and herded them around, and they stayed together and stayed as a herd. They followed them around. There's usually one guy leading and one guy pushing. We were on the lake. Was this still Lake Naivasha? We were on the other side of Lake Naivasha, and these are hippos in the lake. That's Seth with his feet propped up. Becca, Mary Catherine in the background. Just riding around the lake. They were showing us different birds and hippos. And we didn't put a video of that eagle swooping in, did we? They have an eagle, huh? They have an eagle. What they call it? A fish eagle. Looks just like a bald eagle. Well, not quite, but very much like a bald eagle. And these guys have them trained. They'll go up close, and the driver will stand up and he'll whistle at them, or it's more of a scream, but it's like a whistle. And he'll take a fish, and he tears up some styrofoam, stuffs it in there, in the fish, and throws it on the lake, and those eagles swoop down, take it off the lake right in front of us. It was pretty neat to watch. That's it. Okay, that's it. It was a gorgeous drive through the mountains, Chewy Lodge, Maasai Land, lots of wildlife, lots of cattle and sheep, and like I said, then it was a long drive back to Nairobi, and you know, it's not like you look on your maps, Google Maps or whatever, and it's just a few miles. Here we'd make it in like hour and a half, 2 hours, and there it took like 4. And the roads weren't awful. You just didn't drive real fast, and they weren't real wide. They weren't highways. You had to be careful. Anything I want to add?
Did you see the sign when you left the airport going to Western that said Obama?
I didn't see that. I didn't. No, but I said something to Pastor Ellie about Obama, and he's, oh, we love that guy. He's a Kenyan. And I was like, I thought he was born in Hawaii. He's like, please.
Tell them about that at Nairobi the first day, and they were doing the dances, and the guy came and told you what they meant. I thought that was kind of neat. They were stomping.
I don't remember what they meant.
You told me that maybe you're making it up, but did they remember?
Well, basically just that every song that they sang was to us and about how grateful that they were that we were there. And they didn't know that they didn't tell the school kids that we were going to be there until the day before. So they had that afternoon to prepare, I guess. So it was really sweet, and they cared a lot about us and the fact that we were there. I was just going to say that it's a life-changing trip, and I think that everybody needs to experience something like this. Going to a third-world country, you don't realize how blessed you are until you see how other people live. And just like with the fish eagle, like we were on a tour of Lake Navasha, but our boat pulled up right beside a fisherman, and he had little tiny tilapia, but he knew that we were going to come by and buy from him to feed the fish eagle, and so he had them all ready for us. And then our driver stuffed the foam in and threw them to the fish eagle so that we could get a good shot of it. And it's just like everybody kind of works together, and I just feel like it's a different type of environment, and it's just a life-changing trip. And I'm really grateful that I got to experience that.
I don't really know what to say, but one thing that I was very surprised about is there was grown men in street clothes walking down the street with just machine guns, just walking around. That's what I got to say.
Nobody had a gun if they weren't police.
Yeah.
Nobody.
They were so surprised that we had guns at home.
Tyson? You want to tell them about the food a little bit? Nobody say anything about food except you about it. What did you teach the kids to play?
So there was most of the kids that wanted to play or learn how to play football were already pretty good at it. And there was one kid who surprised me a lot because he was really good at throwing the ball way before I taught him all the important stuff about it. Like, yeah, the mechanics. And almost everyone wanted to kick the footballs, like they were soccer balls or something. But, yeah. We stopped at Academy before we flew to Kenya, and we bought 2 footballs with tees and air pumps. And the kids loved them so much.
I will say, so like it's not custom for. So Ellie wanted us to eat with them every single night that we were there, and it's not custom for the wife to come out and eat with the family. She kind of just stays in the kitchen, and the kids will eat in there with her. So we were like, no, like we want to meet your family, but that's just not how they do it. And they were like, no, I mean, you'll meet them, but not now. So we were like, okay. But it was cool by like the 3rd, 4th, 5th night. I mean, they just started coming out just a little bit more, just started seeing a little bit more of the kids. I mean, he has 8 kids, but 3 of them were in boarding school. So he has 5 at home. They're little kids and around Kyson's age. And one was adopted. And it was just cool to be considered more like friends instead of guests. And just when you spend enough time with people, you get to know them. And I think Kyson single-handedly kind of got the kids to come out and be less shy. By the 5th night, they were all going, Kyson, come play with us. Kyson. Where's Kyson?
Anything else? Yeah, Pastor Ellie one night had to kick Kyson out of his house. Like, it's time to go home. My kids got school tomorrow. One night I went and got him out of the room, and they'd been in there wrestling. I opened the door, and I guess it was already like this, but the bed was torn apart, and they had mattresses in there shoving each other with the mattress, and they stunk. No AC, they stunk because they had the door shut. Was there even a fan in there? Like, I don't think any air was moving. I opened the door and just hit you. The stinky kids. Time to go? Any other questions? Did he actually wrestle a lion? A wooden statue. We never saw a lion. We saw some cool things, but we didn't see an elephant or a lion or a rhino. Hippos. We saw hippos. Hippos, wildebeest, Cape buffalo, hyenas, lots of warthogs. We saw chimpanzees, giraffes. Bamboos, baboons, water buck. We saw water buck, and several different kinds of antelope. Ostrich. Okay, we'll dismiss. All right, y'all have a good night.